Let's talk about Bevel Modifier. I show you a tool called Bevel, and if I go to the edit mode and select some of the edge, you can see that I can select my bevel tools and add more edge and add a smoothness on any edge that I want, and I also can increase the number of edge. We also have a modifier called bevel, and the bevel modifier is gonna be more interesting because you can add automatic bevel, or also you can change the amount of bevel on any edge that you want. So for now I click on this object and let me activate the wireframe. You can activate the wireframe of all the object with going to the overlay wireframe, or you can go to the object data properties, viewport display, and activate the wireframe on only on this object, and it's based on what you want. So we want to add bevel modifier. We go to the modifiers, add modifiers, generate, and select bevel. And the moment I click on bevel, you can see that one edge add to some of edges of the object, and that's because for now the method of my bevel is by angle. So let me start to explain from the top. The width type is the type of the measurement that you put on the amount number. For example, if it's 0.1, offset is gonna be the distance between the first edge, for example this edge, and this edge. This much is gonna be 0.1. And if you, it doesn't matter how many segments you put, this amount is always gonna be the same. And if you put up width type to width, the distance between these two edges is gonna be the amount of the bevel. It's really not very important. The only other option that I suggest you to learn is the percent type. And percent is sometimes important, and what it does is that it's gonna be measure the distance between the first edge and this one and this distance. And for example, if you put 20%, it's gonna be, for example, 20% is gonna be approximately this much. And for 20% on this, it's gonna be, for example, this much. And when I put 20% here, you can see that the amount of bevel is approximately to the point that I draw. And I'm gonna use this modifier in the future, but for now let me put it back to offset. And the segment is the number of edge that you add to your previous bevel. And let me reduce this number. This much is, I think, is enough. Let me put it 1. Okay. So the limit method is angle, and angle is gonna be based on the angle between the normal of two faces. And what is the normal of two faces? Let me deactivate the bevel. If we draw a perpendicular line to one of the one face, for example this face, and then add another line perpendicular to this face, this angle is gonna be some number. And if this number is bigger than the number on angle here, it's gonna be add bevel. And if this angle is lower than this number, it's not gonna be create any bevel for us. Okay, so as you can see, the more we go to right, the angle of between these two faces is gonna be bigger. So if I activate the bevel modifier, for now it's gonna be bevel. But if I increase the angle, you can see that this bevel is gonna be deactivated. And if I increase the angle more, you can see that all the bevel from the left to right is gonna be deactivated one by one. Okay, so based on the type of corner that you have on each edge is gonna be use bevel. And I really don't use the angle that much because its behavior is unpredictable. So let me go to the next method, and the next method is the weight method. And weight method is the jealousy of all the other software user like Maya or 3D Max. And what it does is that if I put the method to weight method and then go to the edit mode, you can select any edge that you want. Let me go to the select box. You can select any edge that you want, for example this edge. And if I go to the here, you have a option under the edges data, name mean bevel weight. And if I change the number to 1, you can see that I have a bevel on all the edges that I change the number to 1. And the color of the edges is gonna be changed, and it means that I put a bevel weight on this edge. And that's the beauty of this limit method, because you can add any bevel anywhere you want. For example, you can add bevel here by changing the number to this number to 1. But if you do the bevel manually, you have to either use the Ctrl Z to back to the previous action, or delete all the edges and use the bevel again. But with this method, if I want to, for example, delete bevel on, for example, this edge, I simply come here and change the bevel weight to 0. You can also change the amount of the bevel. For example, I want a smaller bevel on these edges. I can press here and put the number, for example, 0.3. And you can see that the amount of bevel on here is gonna be smaller than the amount of bevel on here. And it's a really procedural method, and you can easily control where you want to bevel and where you don't want to bevel. And this is the limit method weight. There is also the vertex group. We're gonna talk about the vertex group in the future videos, so only use the angle and weight for now. The profile is the type of the profile of the bevel, and if it's super ellipse, it's gonna be a smooth bevel. For example, let me increase the number of bevel and make it a little bigger for now. And shape is gonna be like the bevel tools. But if you want to have a custom shape, let me add more edge. If you want to have a custom shape, for example, I want to have a custom shape, I can create this kind of shape, and you can see that the bevel is gonna be follow up on any shape that I put on my custom menu. And this point is gonna be control the shape of your bevel, and if you want to delete any one of them, you can come here and press on this one, and it's gonna be delete this point. We can also control the type of point. For example, make it sharp, make it handlebar, and this handlebar in one place it's gonna be smooth, and on the other it can be not smooth. And it's basically the method of controlling your shape. Okay, so for now let me back to the stereo ellipse type and decrease the number to point. The meter outer is gonna be the shape of your bevel on some part. For example, if I add more bevel on here, it's gonna be control the shape on this part. And let me decrease the amount. The sharp is gonna be exactly like what this is. Sharp. It's gonna be sharp in here. Okay. If I change it to something like this, for example, to patch, it's gonna be this kind of shape. But the bad thing about the patch type is that we have an end gun here, you can see, and we also have an end gun here. So I really don't use it unless you know that you can use it, okay? And it's intermediate knowledge and you don't need to worry about it. And the next shape is gonna be arc. And arc is really make your object smooth, but the bad thing is that it's gonna be end gun in here. So if you don't need to worry about the end gun, you can use the arc if you want. But for now, I'm gonna put it back to sharp. The inner arc is, so let me decrease the number. The inner arc is the shape of this one. Okay, if you put it to sharp, it's gonna be exactly sharp. But if I change it to arc, it's gonna create an arc in this, and it is inner of your bevel. And the spread is the amount of control of inner. For example, if I change it to something, you can see that it's gonna be overlap, but for now this much is enough. Intersection is the place of connecting two bevel, and when it's grid fill, it's gonna create this kind of grid fill that you see. And let me back this to also to sharp. But if you put it to cut off, it's gonna be cut your face and create a shape that I don't really like. And the last thing I want you to know is this clamp overlap, because it's really, and let me back this to grid fill. And clamp overlap is really important. For example, if I change the amount to a number from a point, you can see that it's not gonna be more than this much. But if you deactivate the clamp overlap, you can see that it allows the blender to create the shape more than what it can, and it's really better to always activate the clamp overlap. But you need to remember that from one point, it doesn't matter how much you increase this number, it's gonna be a stop at some point. And the shading is more about the shading and material, and this is a modeling series, so we're not really talking about it. And we have also the loop slide, and the loop slide is gonna be a slide the edge on this part of places so that your sharpness is become better. For example, if I deactivate the loop slide, you can see that it's gonna move my edge to here and change the place of this edge to here. But if you activate the loop slide, it's gonna be at the same place at what it was. It's not really important. You just need to remember clamp overlap, the limit method, and amount and segment. Okay. And now I go to my previous object, add the modifier, generate bevel, change the limit method to weight, and then go to the edit mode and, for example, select these edges. Okay, all of this edge. From item, go to the mean bevel weight and change the number to 1. And let me decrease the amount and increase the number of edge. Okay, you can also activate the wireframe for this object like this. And also there is a method to use the angle method at the start of selecting your edges. You can go to the select sharp edges, and you can see that it's gonna be select all the sharp edges that I have. But if you want to change the angle, you can, for example, increase the angle so that this cylinder is gonna be deactivated. Okay, I think this much is nice. And then I change the number mean bevel weight to 1. Okay, and now I have bevel on all my edges that I want. And this is the method for using the bevel weight with select in edit mode, select sharp edges. Wow, this video takes more than what I thought, but I just want to mention that most of the setting in the bevel modifier is the same as the manual bevel that we used in previous videos. And my suggestion for using the bevel is that whenever you want to add edge on some part of your object, it's better to just use the simple manual bevel. But if your object is complicated and you want to use the bevel on the whole object, it's better to use the bevel modifier for efficient modeling. And as always, you can subscribe, like, or comment and give me any suggestion that you think. I see you on the next video.